This episode is sponsored by Kerkering Barberio, your trusted partner in tax, audit, and outsourced accounting services. Serving Sarasota, Manatee, and the greater Tampa Bay area for over 50 years, KB helps clients achieve their personal and business goals. Visit kbgrp.com to learn more. On this podcast, Kevin Caldwell talks about hiring and retaining top young employees. That's a subject that the Business Observer writes about regularly. To read those stories and more, subscribe to the Business Observer. Go to businessobserverfl.com/subscribe. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer from the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Kevin Caldwell, founder of Golden Road Advisors. Kevin, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Mark. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So we're going to talk a little bit about Golden Road Advisors and what your niche is there. And then we're going to get into some hiring philosophies and Gen Z and how you've sort of incorporated Gen Z into your organization. But tell us a little bit about Golden Road Advisors and kind of what the niche is there and what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks. So Golden Road Advisors is a registered investment advisor, is the category in the financial services industry that we occupy. So we're a fee-based financial planning shop, and what that means is, we don't sell products to earn commissions. We're very much focused on solving problems for people, and getting paid on a fee base for that advice.
And you've been in this industry about 20 something years, and you were with, I know, Raymond James for a little bit. What was the transition like when you're working for, an entity as widely known as Raymond James to going out on your own? When did you do that, and what was that transition like?
Yeah, so I actually started in the industry. My first month was October of 2007. So, didn't have any accounts that weren't severely underwater for the first few years in the business. And so from, fast forward to 2020, we're in the pandemic. I decided it was time for me to pursue the CFP designation, the Certified Financial Planner, and basically did that like early in the morning before my family woke up. And, we were all working from home at the time. And just went through that process, got a renewed passion for the industry, and decided coming out of that I needed to do my own thing, that I was entrepreneurial. And so I basically convinced my team that we had to, figure out how to put our own thing together. And so, it was just kind of similar to other parts of my career where it's like, I know I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to get it done. And so leaving a big firm or any of that didn't really factor in. We have great relationships with our clients. And I knew that if we were leaving to build something better for them, that they would trust us and come with us, and they did.
Sometimes it's that old adage, right, that you just have to start, right? Like, it's not at the level that you're talking about because yours is a business, but in starting this podcast, I had it on my goal list for almost 4 years pre-COVID, and I didn't start it until June 2023 because I just kept thinking about what can go wrong, how much do I know, and how do you do all of it? And it sounds like you had to at some point say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to be good at it.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate. I met somebody who had gone through a similar transition a couple of years before, and he was just so kind and basically said, "Hey, look, here's the blueprint for what we did," and we pretty much copied him. So it's it's our industry's got a lot of sharing and good people, and so I was fortunate to benefit from that. But yeah, sometimes you just got to go do it.
Yeah, and you're based in Tampa?
We are. Yeah, we have an office in Hyde Park, part of Tampa.
Excellent. So you're in Tampa. You got this firm going. How many employees do you guys have?
So there's 5 of us total. So there's my partner and I, and then we brought on the Gen Z financial planning associate earlier this year. And then we've got an operations person and a client service person.
So let's talk about the Gen Z and take me a little bit back too, because I understand you do some work at University of Florida, and tell me about sort of the teaching that you do there and how that is connected to your hiring philosophy.
Yeah, so I went to school at University of Florida. I was a finance major and have stayed somewhat in communication with the program. And have been pushing them, for years to look at launching a wealth management or a CFP program. And a few years ago, they decided to do that. And when they did, they asked me at first, "Hey, will you come up and just teach a class about financial planning? Come up and walk the students through a financial plan on the software, right? Tell your story about your career, and then show us a mock, case study kind of thing."
Yeah.
And I did, and I built it on. I made up a name. It was Tom Petty, and everybody loved that. And I think it, being in Gainesville and all that. But yeah, so it started small, and then it's just kind of been a magical ride since then. To be honest, a little bit of serendipity, a little bit of hard work and strategy, and I really encourage any leaders that are in an industry that there is a university program involved, or even a trade school or anything. Just go get involved. It's just
Yeah.
been an amazing experience.
See, and you went to University of Florida.
Yes.
Okay, so you graduated there, and so there was that connection there to get involved in it.
Yeah, there was that connection. And again, like I said, it started out just, guest lecturing, let's call it, if you want to be, fancy about it. But from then, I'm on the independent side. Like I said, we're an RIA. Our industry's got, firms like ours all the way up to the biggest, financial firms in the world. And the professor that runs the program at UF was smart in that he wanted representation from a wide variety of firms. And so I've been able to give input on, what I'd like to see coming out of school, from as far as a preparedness for your career from the students. And they asked me if I'd be an industry advisor to the program, and so I've been doing that. We're a financial sponsor of the program, and so I really just want to stand for the good and enhance the professionalism of this industry, and I feel like being involved in this program is helping me do that.
And how is that connected to your sort of philosophy on hiring people at your firm?
Yeah, so I went up there it was actually last spring, so spring of 2023. I was planning my trip up there, and the professor said, Kevin, instead of coming up and doing, your normal lecture, I've set up 5 interviews for you. I want you to start an internship this summer, and I want you to interview some of my, my kids and see what you think. And I just said, what? I don't have plans for an internship.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
And I'm a very probably overly thoughtful, strategic thinker. And so that little thing, that little catalyst has basically really given us like our path for the strategy going forward,
Yeah.
even to a potential succession down the line. So it's really amazing.
Wow. So you really thought about that, even though you're not the position. I wouldn't think you're at the position where you're thinking about an exit strategy, but you've already thought in that detail about it.
Well, I think it goes back to this. So when we're talking about a hiring philosophy, you can't hire someone if you're not willing to take responsibility for their family,
Yeah.
and if you're not going to give them a great experience. And so I did not want to have an intern come in here and waste their time. These are really sharp kids that can go anywhere, right? And so I just started, I went up there and talked to them, and I realized really quickly, these are future professionals. They really want to be certified financial planners. They want to be professionals, and they want to hone their craft, and they want to use their powers to help people. And that means they want to be on the path to CFP certification, which is a long path. And I just looked at that path to certification and said, what if I build out an apprenticeship program that helps them reach their CFP certification as fast as possible?
Yeah. And what did that building out that apprenticeship program? What does that mean? What does that entail within Golden Road?
So what it meant at first was, an internship that had hands-on experience with clients, right? Not going to get me coffee, not, cold calling people.
Sure.
It was purely, hey, let's prepare for these meetings together. Let me walk through the plan with these clients with you and explain why we make these decisions. So I had to really become a teacher.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy that part of it. And, you learn by teaching, right? So I've
Yeah.
become a better advisor through that. And, in order to become a CFP, you have to have a 4-year degree from an accredited institution. You have to take the prereq education requirements, which the minor at UF does that. You have to sit for the exam and pass it. And then you have to have 4,000 to 6,000 hours of experience before you can actually say you're a CFP, even if you pass the exam, which is similar to the CPA and some other,
Yeah.
other designations. And so the 4,000 hour path is called the apprenticeship path. And you have got to be doing that work under the supervision of a CFP on clients specifically. You can't just be in the industry. And so, I just said, all right, we've got to build this path out where they're actually doing work on that. And then what has that done for our firm? Well, it's allowed us to delegate things and to, therefore allow my partner and myself to do, more strategic thinking, more, work on the firm, more work on marketing, making a better client experience, all that kind of stuff. So it's been, an amazing benefit to us and to our clients.
And it's interesting too, though, because you've had this great experience and it goes against the grain. It's a little counterintuitive in a sense that we hear all the time people, in their 50s and 60s are, I don't want to work with that younger generation. They don't have the work ethic. They don't bring it. They don't work hard like I do. They're not interested. They just want, to go on the beach and be on their TikTok. What has your experience been with working with that generation and seeing, molding them into young professionals?
Listen, I don't have it all figured out. I don't want to act like I do, but my experience with this specific group, I've met dozens of them. I've been very impressed with all of them. And my experience has been just the opposite from what people typically are saying about Gen Z. I think the reason why is because A, they're really bright kids. They could go into any industry they want. They could do anything they want. They're choosing with their undergraduate studies to focus on something industry related, right? Which is similar to what you'd see in engineering or accounting or, there's a lot, turf grass science, there's a lot of them that are like that. But I think that they're trying to be professionals. And so, I went up there that first time and I said, hey, listen, here's my contact information. Reach out to me. I'll do anything I can to help you. And, usually you do that and one or two people respond. I mean, all of them responded. All of them reached out to me.
Yeah.
And so I just find that, people that are on the path to being in a profession and they see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as what that career path can look like are maybe more motivated, maybe, just are really interested in getting into that industry and doing things the right way.
And so you've been doing, you said that you started the internship 2023, so about a year or so. What advice would you have for other business owners, business leaders, maybe in financial services, but maybe in manufacturing, any industry? What advice would you have for other business leaders looking to work and do a similar thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that any industry that you have a certification, so there's a lot of certifications in tech,
Sure.
trade schools, all that kind of stuff.
Regulated things, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that first of all, why not build the job that you think is the best job they've ever had? Why not build the job for them that you wish you had when you started in the industry, instead of saying, we've got to build, you've got to go through all the, walk through the snow both ways to the office like I did and go through all this stuff.
Right.
I think that as the world becomes more transparent, that stuff loses its effectiveness. And so I just, I think that you need to think about strategically, like start with the end in mind and work your way back. What kind of people do we want here? And you go get involved with these programs at schools. You're going to be challenged. The professors are going to challenge you because you may be good enough to deserve their students, but you're going to have to earn that respect and prove that. But at the same time, go tell your story. Talk about your career path and what you do and how you've built what you've built. And you're helping add value to that program by those students hearing your story. And at the same time, you're telling your story. And so maybe there's an opportunity to get, some people to come look at your firm and be interested in what you do and how how people work under your firm.
Yeah, it's that sort of cliche of be authentic, right? Be who you are so that people will want to be a part of your organization.
Yeah, and we were talking about sort of the strategy from start to finish. I think that I think all the time, if we are building this intern to apprenticeship to partnership model, it's similar to like how a law firm would work, right?
Yeah.
Imagine somebody gets employed at a big commercial law firm, passes the bar exam, and the managing partner comes down and says, "Hey, write down the list of the 20 wealthiest business owners so we can go sell them legal services." Right?
Yeah.
That's laughable,
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
in our industry, you're like, yeah, that's what you do, right?
Right.
So
Let's do it.
basically, it comes down to, yeah. I mean, it's instead of us expecting somebody to be able to grow a client base before they know what they're doing, we're giving them the skills to learn what they're doing before they're expected to build a client base. And I think that this new generation is smarter. They want to become professionals. They know more about the industry, and that's the path they're looking for. And I think that if you can do that in any industry, you're going to be successful.
Definitely. And so to go back for a second, I thought that it was interesting. You said, you've been doing this for a little bit and in terms of just the general program, and that you've learned a lot in terms of teaching them. You've learned a lot about, your business and being better. What are some of the things that you think you've learned through this experience as an entrepreneur and as a registered investment advisor?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to communicate better. When you bring anybody new into your firm, as smart as they are, you've got to communicate in a more simple way, so it helps
Yeah.
you distill your story down. So that's one. And then the other thing is, listen, you got to show up every day and you've got to walk somebody through every step you've taken on a journey of advice with a client. And you better make sure that every decision was made for the right reason. And so
Yeah.
I've been really proud that we can go back and look at these things for clients over the years and tell them, hey, look, we've given this advice along the way, and here's the outcomes we've seen from that. And so, your firm's going to have to be, built for to do things the right way,
Yeah.
or you're going to get called on it.
Yeah, especially in such a regulated, competitive environment where there's other options for consumers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it sounds like too, that's that, talk about communicate, right? It's especially with young people. I'm curious what you think of this, but I've learned never assume that they know what you're talking about, over communicate all the time. Do you understand what we're saying when we say this is the story we want to? Obviously, we're writing and publishing stories, but same thing for you. Do you understand what I'm saying when is that part of it? Never assume.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so true. And, our industry, everything depends on something else, which depends on something else, right?
Sure.
And so, yeah, you've got to just explain and explain and explain. And the other thing too is, what's great is that I get to give a research project. Hey, go take a look at this and let me know what you find. And I can challenge someone and say, this is the time in your career where you're going to set the standard for what's good enough for you.
Yeah.
Right? Is it good enough to just be good enough, or are you going to actually dig and find the real answer? And a lot of the stuff is tax planning and tax nuance, which is complicated, right? And
Sure.
so I just find that there's a lot of benefit in that regard. And then also, our industry is very relationship driven, and so sitting in meetings with somebody and getting another person's perspective on what they heard and coming together after a meeting and saying, what did you hear?
Yes.
And this is what I heard. It's fascinating.
Yes. I learned that many years ago. The owner of the Observer Media Group, Matt Walsh, I was in a meeting with him and he did that. What did you hear? And everybody heard different things. I never thought of it that way. And I'm thinking everybody heard what I heard, but that is not true.
Yeah. Or we'll walk out and we'll say, something, how do you think it went?
Yes.
And he'll say, oh, that was awesome, whatever. And I'll say, I was getting some nonverbal cues from, spouse A or B or whatever. And, so being able to teach that almost like emotional intelligence and just, that kind of stuff is really rewarding.
Yeah. So before we Kevin, get to some rapid fire questions. One more question on Golden Road Advisors. I usually ask, as we come to the end of the year, what can we expect next year? But you guys are you're in such a long-term business. So tell me 3 to 5 years from now, where's Golden Road Advisors going to be in terms of, employees, assets under management, any metric, right? Where are you guys going to be 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, I feel highly confident. We just hired the last piece of the puzzle earlier in September. And so I feel like next year and going forward, we're going to go out and do a better job of telling our story, talking about how we work with people and growing the firm. We're focused on organic growth through this program. We're not trying to recruit advisors to come join us that have existing books of business. We want to do things our way. And so, I really see that, we'll probably be, $500, $600 million in assets under management in 3 to 5 years. And, we're going to bring in new interns and apprentices as our current person evolves and we have the need for that. So I would hope in 3 years we'd have at least one more, and in 5 years we'd have 2 or 3 more. And just continuing to accomplish our mission. We want to be the premier financial planning firm in the Tampa Bay market.
Excellent. All right, Kevin, we got rapid fire questions as we wind down here, and we're going to throw you for a loop here because we've established your relationship with the University of Florida. So these are going to be UF specific rapid fire questions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. Okay. And I'm asking this first one, our producer, Reed Corley, who is not on screen here, but he's a passionate Florida State University graduate. I know he's going to be listening specifically for this answer. All right, you're UF. What if you could choose one team you had to beat and you could beat? Would it be Georgia? I'm talking UF football. Would it be Georgia or Florida State?
Florida State.
Really? Florida State over Georgia, even as good as Georgia has been? You're still
absolutely
Florida State all the way. All right, I'm not critical. This is not a University of Florida football podcast, but I'm also curious because their coach is in some trouble this year. You could hire Steve Spurrier in his prime or Urban Meyer in his prime to lead the Gators. Who do you hire?
Steve Spurrier. I grew up a Gator fan. My whole family went to school there. I was the 8th person in my family to go to school there. So I was fortunate as a kid to go to many games in the 90s in that era. And I just think the teams were so good and it was just so fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the Urban Meyer era was obviously Tebow was really, it was cool, but I think that, the game it just wasn't as fun.
And your answers, I thought the answer could be clouded because it's hard to look at Urban Meyer the same way now as when at least for me, as a Gator, as an outsider, I don't look at Urban Meyer the same way now as I did when he was coaching there.
And also Spurrier was an alum. He won the Heisman Trophy there. He was I was there for his last year. I was heartbroken when he left after my freshman year. But, so I don't know. And college football's changed so much, and it's just the game's not as interesting to me anymore. And so I love that 90s era, just like, and Florida and Florida State were both so dominant, and that rivalry just meant so much to this state that that's the era I miss.
You and I could be like the guys in the Muppets on the top of the balcony, like just complaining about college football and NIL, how it ruined the sport, and
the transfer. You can transfer after being there in the you're in the spring and you don't like it, so you transfer.
You're gone.
It's tough. Listen, it's like free agency with no contracts. They're gonna have to do something to figure it out.
But we're going to stay on the UF football theme.
Okay. All
right. So you have one drive left. You're down by 3 points. You have one drive. What quarterback do you choose? Danny Werfel or Tim Tebow? Or maybe Steve Spurrier, actually. Maybe you choose Spurrier.
You got to go with Tebow just for his ability to run and run people over. I mean, he's going to get those yards no matter what. So I would go with Tebow as much as I love Danny Werfel.
Yes. Amazing. Excellent. Kevin Caldwell, that was fun. That was a fun little Gator chat.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I didn't expect that.
Yes, that's the rapid fire of the From the Corner Office podcast. Kevin Caldwell with Golden Road Advisors, thank you so much for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordy. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.